Cancer is a disease that's had a large impact on my family in the past few years. I lost my grandfather to a 3-year battle. A world without cancer is a vision people have had and continue to fight toward. Now, Jim Valvano was a college basketball coach who reached the highest level of coaching success by winning a national title, but then hit the lowest of the lows while battling cancer that would eventually take his life. In 1993, in the last days of his life, Valvano stood in front of his peers at the ESPN ESPY Awards and accepted the Arthur Ashe Humanitarian Award, an award given to a person who was able to show great courage. Valvano, Jimmy V as he was known, stood in front of his peers. Jimmy V as he was known spoke for the next 10 minutes or so with the same fire and passion he always seemed to have, putting his crippling disease aside and moving the crowd to tears. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is the motto for the V Foundation that Jimmy and ESPN created and announced to the crowd that night to assist in cancer research. These are some of the last words ever publicly spoken by Valvano, in a phrase that he did indeed seem to live by. Jimmy V had a vision, a world without cancer, a theme that's carried on through his foundation for the past 20 years. Passion, emotion, thought, all words that Jimmy used to describe a vision of a happy, healthier world. Words that everyone can connect to create their own vision of happiness. In a time where sports stars are often seen in such a negative light, it's important to ask, what can the Jim Valvano ESPY speech teach us about rhetorical vision and the importance of sports? In order to answer this question, we'll look at the theory of symbolic convergence. Valvano's speech seemed to move people, and his foundation continues to receive millions of dollars. This theory will better help us illustrate how a vision can become a reality. So we'll first examine the theory of symbolic convergence and its literature, applied to Valvano's speech, before finally answering our question. Symbolic convergence theory and its methods of fantasy theme analysis was created by Ernest G. Foreman. This theory is to provide an insight into a shared worldview of groups. Fantasy theme analysis is based on two major premises. One, that communication creates reality, and the other is that communication not only creates reality for individuals, but the meanings for the symbols can converge to create a reality. More simply, communicating in a group will create a reality of what is being talked about. Symbolic convergence theory also has two main units of analysis. The first is fantasy theme. Now, the word fantasy is not used to describe something imaginary, but instead describe a creative, imaginative interpretation of events. Fantasy is a word, phrase, or statement that can be used to interpret events in the past, present, or future. It tells a story about a group's experience constructing reality. The other unit of analysis is rhetorical vision, which is the unified putting together of various shared fantasies. Rhetorical vision puts together ideas of fantasy theme to provide a particular view of reality. Symbolic convergence theory and its methods of fantasy theme analysis has been used to analyze the communication of many different types of groups, from political campaigns, from the Nazis to political campaigns to sports teams. For example, Hitler was one of the greatest persuaders in history. He convinced millions that Jewish people were not equal and must be killed. Now, this mob-like mentality in Hitler's incredibly convincing persona was an incredibly negative way that we've seen symbolic convergence used. The Nazi Germans acted in a group of Hitler's communication of the Jewish people, and led to the community consciousness that Hitler was a man whose words should be followed. Also, around the NBA a few months ago, players wore t-shirts during warm-ups that said, "I can't breathe." This is to bring awareness to a situation in New York where cops killed a man named Eric Garner. Now, in a time when protesters often turn violent and act foolishly, these NBA players use their platform like Valvano to have a peaceful protest. The community consciousness is by the community consciousness of the players that Garner was wrongfully killed, and also to show support and pay respect to their family. In each instance, we see very different groups of people combining thoughts, ideas, and plans, and putting that plan into action. Now that we have a more clear understanding of symbolic convergence, we can now take a more look into Jimmy's famous ESPY speech. Once a coach, always a coach, as the saying goes. It was a pregame rambling of motivation, stories, but this time it was on a different stage, with a different audience, with the same goals, to motivate and inspire. You could hear a pin drop as Valvano began to speak. Jimmy expressed his gratitude for being able to receive the award and said that in life, everyone should do three things. You should laugh, think, and have your emotions move you to tears. If you can do these three things, you will have a very successful life. Jimmy then made references to some famous sports figures in the crowd and some deceased, noting how they've impacted his life with humorous anecdotes. Now, after a lighthearted first half, Valvano turned more serious, but wasn't going to talk about himself or his circumstances. He urged that everyone enjoy every moment of their life because he realizes how quickly it can be taken away from you. Jimmy concluded his speech by announcing the Jimmy V Foundation, which will help in cancer research. As we see in symbolic convergence theory, communication creates a reality. A shared consciousness has been developed by Jimmy in this fight for cancer. Since his passing, people have filled in and continued to nurture his original idea of a world without cancer. Jimmy then touches on past, present, and future items. Arthur Ashe was a person that exemplified exactly what Valvano wanted to be remembered as when he was gone. Turn personal misfortune into something beneficial for someone else. This is the fantasy that continues to guide his foundation and allows him to grow every year to become the successful organization that it is today. Being selfless is a key ingredient into every good sports team. If you're in it for yourself, you will not achieve your goals as a group, as a team. Valvano then goes on to talk about his daughters, all young and in good health. Once again, understanding his circumstances, says that he knows the research can't save his life. But with the help of his foundation and everyone else, maybe the research could save his daughters' lives, could save their daughters' lives. Cancer is no longer a battle being fought by one person. It'll take an army, and Jimmy's calling in the troops. Having applied symbolic convergence theory to Jimmy V's speech, we can now return to our research question. What can the Jim Valvano SB speech teach us about rhetorical vision and the importance of sports? I've shown the sports were a platform for Jimmy to get his message across. Valvano was a leader who guided many teams to success, but now he wants to guide the fight for cancer to success. More importantly, it's not enough for people to come together with an idea. It needs a leader or a coach to guide it. The groundwork is in place for Jimmy's fight to be a success. Every year Jimmy V's speech gets played on ESPN around the time of the ESPYs. His legacy and his fight will live on, and we are reminded of his message of resiliency. This speech is played every year because it shows the power of the speech is played every year because it reminds us how a powerful sports speaker can create a shared rhetorical vision. This famous basketball coach uses skills to inspire thousands, and in this fight for cancer to never give up. His speech shows the power of symbolic convergence in oratory. In other words, Jimmy didn't just give another halftime speech, and it wasn't just another speech about cancer. He showed how a speaker with confidence can bring people together, change the landscape, and achieve a vision. Today I've discussed the theory of symbolic convergence, along with the tenets of fantasy theme analysis and rhetorical vision. Jimmy displayed courage and leadership. He turned individuals into friends. He turned individuals into teammates. He made strangers friends in this fight for cancer. He turned his idea of a world without cancer into an incredibly successful organization. Now, regardless if you've ever played a sport or not, something we can all associate with is Jimmy's famous last words: don't give up. Don't ever give up.